Brian Houston here. Welcome to another podcast on Rattle and Hum Sports. We're talking with Matthew Postins, covering the Dallas Cowboys for Rattle and Hum Sports. And Matthew, we've been talking for weeks about when the Cowboys might get their new contract done with Tony Romo, but I don't think anybody expected what we saw today with the Cowboys giving Romo a 6-year, $120.6 million deal with $52 million of it guaranteed. Did you see that coming?
I didn't see quite those numbers. We talked on Monday about what I kind of expected a Tony Romo contract to look like, and I felt as if it was going to be in that $14 to $15 million a year range per average. This contract has him in the $18 million per year average. Now, that's not what counts against the back over year, obviously, but in terms of per year average, that puts him just below the stratosphere of Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, guys like Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Eli Manning, Joe Flacco, all of which have contracts with average annual values of at least $20 million. That also includes Drew Brees. So Jerry Jones obviously believes that Tony Romo isn't that second tier of quarterbacks, even though Romo is a player that's only won one playoff game, and he's not in the category of guys like Phillip Rivers, who, when you look at the postseason, Phillip Rivers is actually more accomplished.
You know, the amazing thing is when I look at the response I got on Facebook and Twitter, and I've looked at the national response, it seems like for every one person who thinks it's a good idea, there are 9 out there that think this was a really dumb deal on Jerry Jones's part.
Well, what I've always noticed is that the national media seems to have more faith in Tony Romo than the local fans. You know, when you look at, I saw a tweet out there by Mike Greenberg, the ESPN, and basically saying that, you know, if you don't think Tony Romo is worth the money, then think about the dearth of talent at the quarterback position. And to some degree, he has a point. There are not a lot of above-average talented quarterbacks in the NFL right now, but we all knew this deal was going to happen. We all knew that Romo was going to be the Cowboys quarterback for the foreseeable future. I didn't really see it being a contract that would keep him with the team until he was 39 years old, that would end up costing Jerry Jones $120 million and make him the highest-paid Cowboy in team history.
Now, the bigger issue, even beyond this, is the immediate hit that it gives, or the immediate room it gives for cap space for the Cowboys. What kind of impact does it have on the cap?
Well, it's very interesting. According to several reports that I've seen, the cap savings this year will be about $5 million. Now, I was thinking that they were probably going to get a little bit more cap savings out of that, but you have to take into account the fact that there's some dead money involved in this contract. Dead money is what they call money when they release a player and his signing bonus or his guaranteed money gets accelerated into that current year of the contract. Even though Romo's contract is being extended for several more years, Sportrack, which is a great website if you're out there trying to find out what everybody makes in the NFL, made the point that there's several million of this contract that has to be taken into account in the cap this year because it's dead money based on his old contract. So they're only going to get about $5 million in savings, and what they do with that money, in all honesty, that's the money I think they're going to have to set aside for the draft picks. The rookie pool, which is the amount of money that every team in the NFL is allowed to use to sign their rookie players. For the Cowboys, it's about $4.25 million this year. That money is set aside for 6 draft picks. So they have $4.25 million to play with. Basically, they've got about $750,000 to play with right now for free agency. So if they want more room to sign more free agents like Will Allen, Justin Durant, whom they signed earlier this week, they're probably going to have to find a way to restructure Anthony Spencer's one-year tender of $10.8 million. So Romo's contract doesn't mean that Jerry Jones is going to go out and start spending money. What it means is that they now have enough money to sign their 6 rookies when they draft them in April, but they still need more room if they want to sign anybody else in free agency.
Okay, and you mentioned in a column that you wrote on Rattle and Hum Sports, how did they actually get Allen and the other guys signed with the cap space that they had at the time?
Well, there were 3 different things. Obviously, they restructured Kyle Orton's contract, and we think they just restructured part of his base salary and converted it into a bonus. They released Anthony Anderson, the wide receiver, who probably didn't have much of a chance of making the team, but he was making $630,000. That got them $1 million. They had another $100,000 left over. So they had $1.1 million. But Will Allen and Justin Durant's cap hits for 2013 are actually around $1.5 million. So the rest of that money comes from when the lowest player in the top 51 salaries of the team slides off the ledger. In other words, when you sign a guy like Will Allen, he counts in the top 51 player salaries for the Cowboys. Top 51 player salaries are the salaries that actually count towards the salary cap once the new league year begins. So Will Allen gets slotted in, a guy falls off, Justin Durant gets slotted in, another guy falls off, and that helps create the rest of the cap space so that you get those two guys signed. Will Allen's deal, they threw in a little bonus money, so it counted less against the cap this year, and they've got Durant signed for 2 years, so they were able to space out his bonus a little bit more into 2014. So they did a lot of maneuvering that a lot of teams have to when they're trying to create cap space. But everybody always forgets that for every player you slot into that top 51, one player slides out, and that's where the rest of that cap space came from.
What did you make of Donovan McNabb's tweet where he said, Tony Romo's 6 years, $55 million extension? Wow, really? With one playoff win? You got to be kidding me.
Well, Donovan McNabb has certainly made his money over the years, and Donovan McNabb certainly has a much more accomplished career when you consider the postseason than Tony Romo. And that's Donovan McNabb's job now to comment about other players in the NFL. Certainly I could see some players raising their eyebrows in this contract and saying, you know what, this guy's only won one playoff game. This guy's had serious issues in big-time games at the end of the regular season, trying to get the Cowboys into the postseason. So, I could see certainly players outside of the Cowboys making remarks about it. Every Cowboys tweet that I saw from players that are currently with the team all seemed very supportive of the fact that Tony Romo got paid, that this whole drama of a contract extension is behind us, and the Cowboys can start focusing on the next matter at hand, which is perhaps getting Anthony Spencer extended for several more years, getting some more cap space, and moving on to the draft next month.
The unfortunate thing about this is there are going to be a lot of people that will criticize Romo, but the bottom line is if somebody came to you and offered you the kind of money that Jerry Jones offered to give Romo, you wouldn't turn it down, and neither would I. This is Jerry Jones. This is not Romo.
No, it's not. I mean, Jerry has a history of paying guys big bucks and deferring the team until later on in the contract. Now, Romo had a lot of leverage because he learned earlier today that the way the Cowboys wrote his past contract, they basically wrote it in a way in which they had to extend his deal because they couldn't use the franchise tag on him in 2014 because of the way they timed his voidable years and when they could be voided. They basically timed it in a way where they couldn't void the final 3 years of his past deal until the old legal year was over, which if you do that, you can't use the franchise tag. So, the Cowboys wrote a contract where basically either they extended Tony Romo or they let him go at the end of the 2013 season and tried to sign him as a free agent. So, in a league where there aren't that many above-average quarterbacks, extending Tony Romo is probably the right thing to do, but there are certainly going to be a lot of fans in Dallas that are like, you know what, 6 more years of the same old, I'm not sure I'm down for that. I don't think the Cowboys take a quarterback in this draft either. I think it's Romo or no-go from here on out.
Well, I still am of the opinion that Romo's not the problem until they do something to bolster that offensive line. Johnny Unitas couldn't win with this football team.
It's a tough situation up front. When you hear Mackenzie Bernadette has 3 surgeries in the past year, coming off off-season shoulder surgery. They may make a play for Brandon Moore, the free agent offensive guard from the New York Jets. There may be help coming in the offensive line. I've got my third mock draft coming out this weekend at RattleHuntSports.com, and I'm going offense with my number 18 pick for the Cowboys. I won't tell you who that is, but it's definitely going to be an offensive guy. The offensive line, the defensive line, and the safety are the 3 positions that everybody seems to believe the Cowboys are going to address in the draft next month. And I think they address the offensive line in the first draft.
Well, Matthew, we appreciate it. Big news today out of Valley Ranch. We appreciate the update. We'll look forward to reading your stuff at RattleandHumpSports.com, and we will talk to you next time.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you very much. Matthew Postins covering the Cowboys for RattleandHumpSports.com. I'm Brian Houston. This is Rattle and Hum Sports.